How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. And a happy Monday to everybody. I know we got Black Friday coming up. Checking on some of my vendors. We got some nifty stuff that's supposed to be happening, but I have to wait until I get in contact with them to see what the apps are doing. Because apparently I came across a vendor that has this really awesome app that allows you to pre-order your stuff for Black Friday and Christmas. And once I get the details of that, I'm going to be showing you guys what's what. So you already know. And I did tell you guys before that I'm gonna start running my commercials through the show while I'm on the show. I stuck with it. I said, man, I'm gonna start doing some intermediaries. I'm gonna have to start dropping some stuff. Be like Tim the Tool Man Taylor. So while I appreciate you guys coming to the show today, make sure that you like and subscribe. Also, make sure that you join the membership. Also, remember to throw us some donations, some special likes, special thanks, special emojis. And now they have gifts. So I forgot about the gifts because they're really going back to back with TikTok that doesn't exist right now in the US. And they are throwing up gifts. These special thanks and gifts. And they're located in the comments section. You have the ability to throw this stuff down. All promotions goes to the satisfaction of covering the overhead of the podcast. And then we have a couple of charitable options that we utilize with any accessible money. So just always consider throwing a podcast a little something to help us stay afloat, as well as getting relevant and meaningful knowledge for you guys as requested. Today, we are talking about the vendor card investment that was asked about on the podcast last week. Is this a smart move in 2024 going into 2025 or not? Well, join me as I'm going to dive into the world of vendor cards, investing, and we're going to see if we can figure out if it is something smart for you to do in the upcoming year. Vendor card investing is a topic that's been on my radar for a while now. Well, because my comments are starting to blow up about them. And with the current market trends, with the new 2024 President Donald Trump being president-elect, I like to think that it's essential to take a closer look at this investment strategy. We're facing a lot of uncertainty towards the end of this year, and investors are consistently looking for new ways to diversify their portfolios and maximize their returns. So let's talk about the risks associated with vendor card investing. Some of the pros that we have with vendor cards can reduce the transaction costs, which makes them very cost efficient, especially for businesses with high volumes of vendor payments, such as prepaid phone cards, prepaid credit cards, prepaid gift cards. And as transaction volumes increase, the pre-transaction cost decreases, leading to potential savings over time, such as the pay card that you get from your job. Instead of them giving you your paycheck, they put your paycheck somewhere else, and then you've got to pay a transaction fee every time you want to get money off of your pay card, stuff like that. Streamlined processes. These cards are automated in many aspects of payment processing, including reconciliation and approval workflows. This automation can significantly reduce administrative burdens on finance teams, allowing them to focus on more strategic tasks. Enhancing controls and security with vendor cards comes with customizable spending limits and restrictions, where you could have a $500 limit on a credit card or a $1,000 limit on a credit card or a debit card, where they cannot spend more than that amount. These vendor cards work with per diems that you issue to your employees, where they're not given an unlimited access to the business bank account. They're given a restricted quantity of capital that they will utilize to improve the journey that the business is sending them on, but they are not to exceed the limit that they are given. So if you give them a secured card with $250 limit on it, you can get whatever you want up to $250. That's a good way to look at it. Now, the addition to preventing unauthorized purchases, this feature enhances financial control and reduces the risk of fraud, which Vender cards would work with those of us that are dating wasteful women who like to spend a lot of money. If you put a limited quantity of money onto the card and that's all she's going to get, she's not charging it to the Underhills because that's all she's going to get. And then if you decide to re-upload that card with some more money, you re-upload that card with some more money, but she never has direct access to any of your banking information to be able to withdraw all of your funds from your bank accounts. I would encourage you to make sure that you stay with online banking and then stay with virtual bank statements, and then make sure that in addition to making virtual bank statements, that you don't make any calls to your banks or any of your financial institutions using any of your banking information, and that you also don't pay for any of your bills while you're in front of your partner, because you're going to be releasing confidential information that will allow them to access your information at a later date and time. So you want to be like Batman in a Batcave when it comes down to paying your bills, until you have that level of confidence and trust in your partner that you can guarantee that they're not going to, clean your bank account out and put it into an escape fund so that they can rob you blind and then disappear. Virtual vending cards allows for instant payments, which can improve relationships with suppliers and ensuring timely transactions. This immediacy is particularly beneficial in industries where cash flow is critical. Integration with financial systems helps vendors cards solutions offer robust integration with existing accounting and ERP systems, facilitating real-time tracking and reporting expenses. All of this stuff can allow you to move faster, better, because like with virtual cards, you have your virtual wallet, which means that you don't have to have your wallet with you. If you have your cell phone, you can make purchases with your cell phone. You don't have to go back to the business and go and acquire the business banking information. You can just utilize the banking information directly from your cell phone. Likewise, if you have the banking information directly on your laptop, on a company laptop, then if in the event that a purchase needs to be made on behalf of the laptop, you log into the computer and then you access the capital, and then you're able to make that purchase without having to postpone the purchase until you go and locate the information to make the payment. And if you're also working for a company and you're studying abroad, or not studying abroad, but working abroad or working off base, they call that working in the field, where you leave the office to do the work for the company, and purchases need to be made. Instead of you having to go back to the company and recover that information to make the payment, you use whatever vendor cards you have on your person to cover the cost of the transaction. And in order to get new vendor cards, you have to turn in all the receipts from the last vendor card, which helps you be able to regulate cost, expenses, and permit a little bit of fraud. Now, some of the cons that we have is the initial setup cost. Implementing a vendor card system may involve upfront costs related to the software integration and training of I see you up there, of new processes, and these initial investments could be the barrier for a very small business. What's going on here? We've got Snowman asking some questions. What's up, Snowman? We had a couple of fans that decided to ask us on the show. We were talking about some business and finance and money, and they were asking us questions about vendor cards. And I thought that it would be prudent for me to go ahead and do a topic about vendor cards, talking about what vendor cards are first, and then getting into the nitty gritty about whether or not a vendor card is a smart move to invest in, because we have had some fans in the past that have asked us about this logical and rational investment strategies, because we're in an era where we're going to be spending more time uh, in a capitalist environment where making money for us is going to be the way to be successful. And while we are waiting on the president-elect to take control over things, all of the immediate changes that you'll see happening in the first 180 days of office is going to have a drastic impact on the economy and investment strategies and your capabilities to make money from your W-2 employer, which also is going to have a massive shift with employment options. So we just thought that here on This and That, it'd be a great way to tell you guys what's going on and give you guys the information that you need so that you know what you could do as opposed to what you should do, so that you can have the opportunity to be successful going forward. Being a self-made man is not a self-made man because a man did it by himself. A self-made man is a self-made man because a man did not depend on anyone else to be successful. He took advantage of all opportunities that was afforded to him, but he never gave up on himself and he never gave up on his own dream and ambitions. But a self-made man is not inherently self-made. A self-made man is made by the network that that man made on his own. So I'm just giving you guys all the tools and resources you need to be successful so that you're not being held back by the lack of knowledge in a widely common knowledge society, specifically because since it is so much knowledge that is in fact public knowledge, that you would have to research what you need to know without knowing what you need to know. We give you an idea of what you probably didn't know. And then if you're interested in a topic such as that, then you can do a little bit more digging and get a little bit more research to find more information than what we provided you. But the collaborative efforts of research that I've done typically comes from about 20 to 50 sources to get you the one description of the information that I provide you. So probably when you finish doing your research, you're going to have about as much information about it that I have, with the exception of who's going to provide you with the service, how much you're going to pay for the service, and specifically tuned to your individual experience. How successful are you with doing it? That's what we're up to today. Which, Pinky, we are up to that every day because we are trying to invest in the world. That was a Pinky and the Brain reference from Animaniacs for those 80s babies that remembers the 90s back before we had so much chaos with too much ability to not be self-respectful. So back to the topic at hand. Feel free to like and subscribe. By the way, if you guys want to jump into the podcast and say something appropriate or talk on the topic, you have the ability to approve the mic, approve the camera. I'll throw it back in the comment section in case you guys can't see it. You have the ability to if you approve the mic and approve the camera, brings you into the green room. I confirm that you're over the age of 18, and then I can bring you up onto the show, and then we can have an open forum discussion about everything that I just spoke to you guys about. Special shout out to those of you that are on Twitch and or Twitter, because TikTok is still down. So those of you that are on Twitch or Twitter, that link does apply to you as well. It does get you into our green room, and it does get you onto the show if you're over the age of 18. Special shout out to Red Void, Omni81, and Liberty Twitcher for being long-standing supporters of the podcast, watching us from the other platforms that we are live streaming from. So we greatly appreciate you guys for giving us that long-standing support. And later today, early tomorrow, I should start scheduling the Romania topics, which should follow in line outside of the Sunday members only show. It should be falling in line with the lineup that we have, because Sunday will always be Sunday. But if in the event that there's an opening on Saturday or Monday, it is immediately going to be Brazil after Romania, because Romania came first since Red Void's been here the longest. And we would do Romania, then we would do Brazil, and then we will move forward with the rest of our agenda. So diving back into our topic at hand. Another thing that is really good about, we're dealing with another con right now. So now we're dealing with the tragedies of having vendor cars. So the dependency on technology is going to make the company or the individual relying heavily on digital solutions, which means that any technical issues or outages could disrupt payment processes. Businesses must ensure they have contingency plans in place, such as um, backup servers, backup internet systems, alternative internet providers. They want to make sure that they have multiple networks for their system to function on so that they do not lose the ability to take the payment from the customer, and the customer does not lose the ability to utilize their service in order to make the payment, because that will steer the customer away from regular use of the vendor card. The other issue is the limited usage cases. While vendor cards are excellent for certain types of transactions like Outback gift cards, Walmart gift cards, Sam's Club gift cards, uh, regular secured Visa gift cards, Nordstrom gift cards, they may not be suitable for all vendor payments, particularly those requiring more complex payment structures or those that do not accept credit card payments. Cash only organizations, direct deposit, ACH transactions, mandatory wire transfers, they are not going to be ones that accept vendor cards. So now you have to be multifaceted about how you spend your money. You have a vendor card that is not exclusive to a specific vendor, like an Outback gift card or an AMC gift card or bowling alley gift card. If you have a more universal gift card, because a Shell gift card is a vendor gift card, but it's exclusive to the Shell gas station, so you can't actually buy something that's not gas with it. Uh, well, you can buy gas, oil, whatever that gas station has to offer, because it works at that gas station's location. But you can't take a Shell gas card and go to Walmart and buy groceries. You can take a Visa card with a Shell emblem on it and go and buy groceries because it's a Visa debit card, but you can't take a Shell exclusive gas card and go to Walmart and buy groceries. The card won't work. So you have to be flexible about what you're going to be doing with all of these vendor cards and how you're going to get it done. One of the other issues we have with vendor cards, what we've noticed in recent years, swang it is what they call it. The potential for mismanagement. If not properly monitored, the flexibility offered by vendor cards could lead to overspending or misuse by employees or individuals who find loopholes in the accessibility of those vendor cards, and then the misrepresentation of loading those vendor cards. And then basically you start dealing with problems with identity theft and fraud with those vendor cards, with cloning people's debit or credit cards, which also becomes another problem. So establishing clear policies and oversights is essential to mitigate this risk, because anybody that has accessibility to the company's funds, especially if they're hard up for money, has the capabilities to disperse company funds for personal use without the knowledge of the company, if the company does not have proper checks and balances to regulate that. Likewise, when you see vendor cards being utilized in day-to-day operations, like gift cards that are being stolen, scanned, or falsely copied or duplicated, where individuals are then robbed of their capital gains because of the vendor cards usage from fraud and identity theft. You have to be careful about when you're picking up a vendor card when you're going to go buy one from the store. Now, one of the most significant challenges is this volatile market, because the vendor card market can be highly unpredictable and prices can fluctuate rapidly. This means that investors need to be prepared for potential losses, and it's essential to have a robust risk management strategy in place, and you need to be able to understand what your risk tolerance levels are. Another risk is the lack of regulation in the vendor card market. Unlike traditional investments, vendor cards are not heavily regulated, which can make it challenging for investors to navigate. This lack of oversight can lead to issues with transparency, accountability, and security. And the lack of transparency could cause a company to have ungood faithful deeds, and the requirement for too much transparency could allow a company to be vulnerable. the lack of accountability could cause the customer to be responsible for unexplained services and fees, where the extreme levels of accountability could cause a company to be responsible for unauthorized transactions. The lack of security is going to be there. And then, with too much security restrictions on the usage of the card, the lack of usage on the card due to the quantity of security could also play a huge factor. Furthermore, vendor card investing often requires a significant amount of capital up front. This is not like collecting Pokemon cards. This can be a barrier for many investors, and it's essential to carefully consider whether this investment strategy aligns with your financial goals and your risk tolerance. So, additionally, vendor cards investing can be very complex, and it's easy to get caught up in the technological aspects of it. However, it is crucial to take a step back and consider the bigger picture, including market trends and economic conditions, and get some expert opinions. When it comes to the pros and cons of vendor cards investings, there are a lot of different options out there. Some experts argue that vendor cards offer a unique opportunity for diversification and can provide a significant source of passive income. And on the other hand, others claim that the risks associated with vendor card investing far outweigh potential benefits. One thing is certain, though, vendor card investing is not far from faint of heart, which means that if you are definitely not one to take a loss in stride, it is definitely not something that you want to get yourself into. And it requires a deep understanding of the market and a solid investment strategy and willingness to take calculated risks and excessive losses. Potentially, I've spoken to several investors who have had success with vendor card investing, but I've also heard horror stories about people losing significant amounts of money. So, what's the truth? Is vendor card investing a smart move in the upcoming year? One key insight that I've gained from my research is that the importance of due diligence is necessary. So, investors need to carefully research the vendor card market, evaluate the risks and benefits, and develop the robust strategy that aligns with their financial goals. Another critical factor is the diversification that most people don't really pay attention to. A vendor cards investing should never be a standalone investment strategy. So if all you got is enough money to get a vendor card system set up and get it running, you probably shouldn't go that route. Matter of fact, when you think about it, just taking a little bit of a sidestep, because vendor cards shouldn't be the only thing that you're working on. Instead, it should be part of a broader investment portfolio that's designed to maximize returns while minimizing risks to offset the quantity of expected losses that you're going to be getting from the vendor cards, while also getting in return a larger return from your investments, where you can use the losses from the vendor card as a tax blanket to cover the gains that you get from other platforms. When it comes down to investing in anything, you're supposed to have a wider level of options. But when it comes down to putting your money in something or buying something, you're supposed to have more than what you are spending before you buy it. A rule of thumb typically is 3 times more than what it costs. You should have access to that before you go get it. That fundamental principle is utilized in commercial real estate with rental properties. One of the fundamental requirements to rent a property is, everyone knows this, you're required to have 3 times the rent as your standard income in order to be able to rent the property. Regardless of whether or not you can afford to pay for the property on a month-to-month, week-to-week basis, you have to be able to prove that you're bringing in a significant quantity of capital that supports that particular uh, option, that contract that you're getting yourself into. If you cannot, you're encouraged to get a co-signer, which requires you to get a roommate. So you're going to end up having more than one person on your lease, where the combined income of all qualified applicants equivals the 3 times the rent that it takes for you to live in that property. So if it takes you and 2 other people to move into this property to show 3 times the rent, you ultimately end up having 2 roommates that you either grow to love or really loathe until you can afford to move somewhere else. And then you have the burden of financial diversification between you and the other roommates, where some people have the money to pay on time and some do not, which is something else that you guys got to work on. So you're never supposed to be, even if you decide to go wasteful spending, you're never supposed to run out there and go and buy something when you have 100% of your income going into that particular purchase. Or even just 100% of whatever's left over after you finish paying all your bills for the month. You're not supposed to put 100% of your capital into this particular purchase. And you're not supposed to be making the type of purchase that requires you to go and ask a friend to cover the difference. So, ladies, if you want to go and buy something, if you have to go and ask your boyfriend or your husband to buy it, you probably shouldn't buy it. Furthermore, it's essential to stay up to date with market trends and economic conditions. This means regularly monitoring news and developments in the vendor card market and adjusting your investment strategy accordingly. So, vendor card investing is not a simple yes or no question, which is what you guys asked me last week. Investigating in vendor cards can be a sound financial decision for businesses looking to enhance efficiency, control costs, and streamline payment processes. However, companies should weigh the initial setup costs and potential risks against the long-term benefits. Proper implementation and management are crucial to maximize the advantages of this financial tool, and this makes it a complex topic that requires careful consideration and a deep understanding of the market, and not just all markets, the market of vendor cards. While there are risks associated with vendor card investing, there are also potential benefits for those who are willing to take the time to educate themselves and develop a solid investment strategy. So when you asked me last week, would it be a good idea for us to go into vendor cards, and would it be something that would benefit the betterment of investment portfolios all over the place? One of the things that I'm going to tell you is that the things that are worth investing in, the elite have already invested in it, and elites are the financially elite. If you do not hear the top 1%, those people that are making over $1 million a year in investments, talking about vendor cards, it is less likely that vendor cards are as easy to manage as well as financially profitable at the same time. While vendor cards might have a reasonable return for them, the cost for setup and the time for return on investment might far exceed the desires of the average investor that is interested in fast returns from their investments and their engagements. Doesn't mean that the vendor cards are not a good look. It just means that it's not the go-to scheme for those individuals that have enough money to invest large quantities of capital on certain stocks, bonds, and mutualities. Likewise, when you're also thinking about vendor cards as a startup investor, vendor cards is not for amateurs. So if you're at, when you asked me this last week, is it a good idea for you to get into vendor cards? If you personally are not experienced with vendor cards or have been following the vendor card market for a large period of time, where you understand the trends, then it is not a good idea for you to dive into that without proper guidance and or a mentor, some type of apprenticeships where you go into it with a risk assessment plan that allows you to be successful. Even if you're going to start it up and start small and work your way up to something large, you have to make sure that you're able to invest the least amount of money into your vendor cards with the full understanding that your setup is expandable, so that as your vendor cards become more readily usable, you are using the profits from your previous attempts to fund an expansion, which is what we tell you guys all the time, is that when you're getting dividends from an account, while you don't need 100% of the dividends that are being issued to you, you can reinvest those dividends to increase the potential of your principal, which then allows you to maintain larger quantities of revenue. And you can reinvest once a month, you can reinvest once a year, you can get all this money throughout the year and then take all of the money and start putting it back after the fact, whatever you need to do. In fact, you can take the money, the dividends that you're getting, and use it to pay for a loan. If you've got a large enough quantity of dividends flowing through where you have a reasonable payout, the payout that you're getting from the cash loan that you took out could now be paid off by the dividends you're getting from your stock portfolio, where you can then take the cash money that you borrowed and go and buy things that you need cash up front, so that you're not spending 40 years mortgaging something, or 5 or 7 years paying monthly notes on something. You actually have the green titles to that particular item. If you're buying a car, you actually have the deed to that item. If you're buying a house, you actually have the full, you don't need to borrow money to buy clothes, but if that's what you're going to do, you have the full outfit. You're not renting to own, you're not leasing furniture, you are owning it and keeping it. Now, stuff that you're purchasing that does not appreciate in value, you're only buying what you need, not stuff that looks cool because it looks cool. And likewise, when you're buying a car, you want to have at least one that you own the green title to, because if any situation that another pandemic happens, you're not going to have to worry about, not being able to afford to keep paying for your car. If the economy flops, you're not going to have to worry about having to keep paying for the car. If for some reason US currency stops being printed, you own that car. You don't have to worry about any of your stuff not being paid for. Now, the rest of the stuff, when they start saying, oh, well, I would just lease that. Yeah, you can lease something, anything that you don't plan on keeping, you can lease that. You don't have to pay for the maintenance on it. You just got to keep it in good condition, use it and bring it back. You're going to have it in full coverage insurance regardless, because it's expensive. But instead of you owning a vehicle for 2 to 4 years, you're going to get tired of it inside of 6 months. You're going to lease it for 1 to 2 years. You're going to drive it around outside of your primary vehicle that you own, that you don't have to make any payments on. And then you're going to drive your lease vehicle around for appearances. So you're going to put a lot of miles on your lease vehicle to save miles on your own vehicle, where your own vehicle would do special appearances. Either way it goes, you're not putting millions of dollars into vehicles, unless, of course, you're using the purchase of those vehicles as tax deductions, because that is still a thing. Buying cars for the company, you could own all of them and then write them off as taxes that year. 100% of the value of the vehicle, or up to the value of deductions that you utilize for that calendar year, and then the remainder rolls over. Usually rollover tax breaks tend to last at least, not at least, up to around about 5 years. But you could talk to Joe Mastrano. We have links for Joe Mastrano all over our podcast, and he'll be able to give you information as to how buying company cars can help you with saving money on taxes. So we have a lot of information on our podcast that we try our best to streamline to the fans, so that you guys can have all of the connections that you need to be successful with your financial endeavors. Regardless of that fact, we have come to understand that, yes, there are ways that you can waste money and make a profit off of wasting money, or use wasting money as a tax deduction, so that because sometimes if you don't use it, you lose it. Since you're going to get taxed on it, if you want to get some deductions, you're going to have to spend some money somewhere. Typically, 20 to 40% of your income has to be spent on business materials of some sort, whether it's stuff for the business, company cars, work uniforms, something, utility bills, anything that the service, specialty services, all of that stuff has to be claimed in order for you to get those deductions that you need in order for you to do better with your tax returns. And then the other 60% that goes into your pocket. Now think about the fact that the business is operating at 60% profit, which means that 40% bills, 60% profit. The average individual doesn't even live that type of lifestyle. But a successful business will operate with 40% expenses and 60% overhead, or 60% left over. So while you're watching a podcast, make sure you like and subscribe, but ask yourself, hit the follow button if you're on Twitter or Twitch, but ask yourself, when is the last time you only paid 40% of your paycheck towards bills every month for the whole year and was able to keep the other 60%? Now, I know a lot of y'all, when y'all making 40% of your income, and you're not even doing this by yourself. In order for you to accomplish something like this, you've got to have a partner. You got to be living with family, because in order for you not to have 90% of your income going towards bills, because the broke-minded individual makes ends meet, meaning you have your income not meeting your expenses. If this was a financial bar graph, you would have your income not meeting the red line of your financial debt, and you would have to make those ends meet by finding other ways to bring in enough money to cover the cost. Almost to the magnitude that the average broke-minded person functions the way a nonprofit does, because you don't have a profitable return. You always owe more money than you make, and you have to go find money from somewhere else to bring up the rear and close the gap and try your best to give yourself some type of financial relief from the negative causation of poor choices. And I'm going to say it's negative causation of poor choices, specifically because when you impulse buy, that's a poor choice. Because whatever it is that you're about to buy is not going to turn you a profit. You're not going to make more money off of what you're about to spend. So that's a poor choice. Anytime you don't have money left over after you make that purchase, that's also a poor choice. Anytime you don't have enough money to make that purchase and you have to renegotiate with the seller in order to get a lower price so that you can afford to pay for it, that's a poor choice. They say if you have to ask how much it costs, you can't afford it. If you have to count the pennies in your ashtray or your glove box to make sure that you have enough money to cover the taxes on this particular purchase, you can't afford it. All of these are poor choices in spending. If you buy it because you think you got enough money for it right now, and less than 30 days later, you don't have enough money to spend on something else that you actually need, the previous thing that you bought, you couldn't afford. But that's typically an after effect of irresponsible spending. Holidays, irresponsible spending. Black Friday, irresponsible spending. Yeah, we're going to promo somebody who's going to help you find ways to spend money on the holidays. I'm not going to be a hypocrite about the situation. You guys are going to spend money and somebody's going to get paid for you spending money. And I'm going to help you find ways to put your money in more effective places and make your money get you more stuff, since that's what you're going to do is spend the money. My mother used to tell me when I was growing up is that I'm not going to force you to do right. But if you have every intent to do wrong, I'm going to make sure that you know all the ins and outs about what you're about to get yourself into so that you can try to figure out a way to get yourself out of it. Because if you do something you ain't got no business doing and put yourself in the bind, I am not coming to get you. That is how we were taught to be responsible. Now, if you had nothing to do with it, you were caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time, you matched the description of somebody that is not you, and all these other scenarios, you got picked up on principle because you had a handsome tan, then in that scenario, oh yeah, I'm coming for you. But if you deliberately made an incorrect decision that causes you to have catastrophic failure, I'm not here to help you for that. I'm not here to help you fix deliberate mistakes. Even Jesus didn't die on the cross for the people who knew that what they were doing was wrong. He died on the cross for those individuals who did not know that they were doing something wrong. So everybody else who was deliberately messing up, he ain't shed one drop of blood for them. So why should I? That is the exact mentality of the core foundations that leads me to tell you, if you're about to waste some money, and I'm telling you don't waste money, I'm telling you ways to invest in money, and you're not willing to invest in money, you're about to go Black Friday shopping, you're about to go Cyber Monday shopping, you're about to Taboo Tuesday shop. I know what's going on. Friday, Monday, and Tuesday, y'all about to go ham. Y'all about to take y'all Thursday paycheck and start spending money on Thursday and Friday. And those of you who don't get paid on Friday, who get paid on Monday, is going to start buying stuff on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And y'all going to start getting y'all stuff together for Christmas. And then y'all going to be wasting all this extra money on your friends and your kids and everything like that. And nowhere in there is anybody saying for Christmas, I am going to expand your financial portfolio, where in return, your friend or your family member is going to do the same thing and say, well, for Christmas, I'm going to throw some money down on your bond, on your government bond, not your jail bond. You know, nobody's going to say, oh, well, the gift that I'm going to give you is financial security for your future. Nobody does that. The wealthy might, but the average individual doesn't. The average individual is not going to give you a stock option for your birthday. Even if it's just 2 shares, they're not going to give you a stock option for your birthday. They're not going to get, even if it's penny stocks where you can buy 1,000 shares for $100, where if each share gets a 50% increase, that $100 just went up to $150. They're not even going to give you a penny stock. Instead of giving you a gift card, which is just, here's some cash, go buy yourself whatever you want, which is very thoughtless. Or if they pay attention to who you are and what you like and what you don't like, they're going to spend a bunch of money on impressing you with the thing that you wanted that you couldn't afford for yourself, or the thing that you really wanted, the thing that you really desired, but you rationalize the fact that it's a waste of money for you to get it for yourself. So somebody else will get it for you so you don't have to spend your money on it. That's where gifts are going to be coming from. It's not going to be, I'm going to invest in your success. I'm going to find what you like and what you need, and then I'm going to find what you can benefit from, and then I'm going to invest in what you benefit from first. And then you can take the benefits from that and invest in what you like and what you need. Because you notice, instead of taking extra money that you get and paying off back debt, which in some situations is good because it clears up your credit, but in a lot of situations it's bad, because if you took that money and put it into a investment portfolio that generates revenue, you would be in a situation where the money that you invested will generate dividends on a weekly, monthly basis, that you could take those dividends and then go pay the debt. I'm not saying don't pay the debt. I tell you guys all the time, instead of paying the debt first, put the money up so that you could take the dividends from the principal and pay the debt off the principal, where the money on the principal, the revenue received off the principal, which is called dividends, is supposed to be taxable income unless it goes towards paying off debt. Then it's a tax write-off. But guess what just happened? If you owe somebody $100,000 and you put $100,000 into a stock option, and that $100,000 is giving you $10,000 worth of taxable income, and that $10,000 is going towards your $10,000 worth of payments towards the $100,000 that you bought, guess what just happened? You are not owing any money, but you still gained $100,000 over a reasonable period of time. Even better, if you owe $9,000 a month, or not $9,000 a month, but like $10,000 a year, and you're making $15,000 a year on that same $100,000, the difference is a $5,000 profit. So not only are you paying off the debt, you also are reinvesting the remainder of the dividends back into the platform so that your stock option can increase in the base principal, which increases the quantity of interest that you get over time. By the time the $100,000 that you borrowed got paid off from the $100,000 worth of stocks and bonds and mutualities you invested in, you would have $300,000 to $500,000 of principal and no debt. And the majority of the way, it was all tax deductible in some way, shape, or form. There's a way to make it happen. That's why I keep telling you guys to talk to Joe Mastrano. I text us about him. He does everybody's taxes, and I can tell you what, he will save you over $10,000 every year on your taxes, each person. Tell him this and that sent you, and he'll hook you up with a discount on top of that. It's almost tax time because we got a month left. Tax time is going to start, I do believe, around the 14th of January. And right around that time, between the 14th and the 21st of January, when they open up tax season, the very first tax returns is going to be dropping out. And as that happens, you guys have to be able to find a way to make sure that you're meeting all of the new tax laws that are going into effect for 2025. And if you do, then your returns are going to be nifty, and the O's that you're going to have, the dues that you're going to have to pay, are not going to be as significant. Regardless of the fact, if you're not paying attention to your investment portfolio, if you're throwing a bunch of money into a stock, bond, mutuality, or any type of REIT, and you're not paying attention to it, the REIT could go belly up and you can lose all your money. Stocks and bonds can tank. Blue chip companies can go out of business after generations of being around. All it takes is something unexpected to happen to change the direction of the market. You have to watch what's going on because market shifts do not shift by themselves. They're like glaciers, but they're going to crash into another glacier, and that glacier is going to crash into another glacier, and that glacier way over there on the other side is going to be the one that negatively impacts you. So while some market trends are fast changing, some market trends are slow changing. Some market trends are annual, some market trends are seasonal. And if you're paying attention to the market trends over an extended period of time, you start having a historical documented record of progression. You cannot calculate the rises and falls to the penny. But if you can calculate about a variable time frame that a rise will occur, you can invest before the rise. If you understand that there's a variable time frame where the fall is bound to occur, you can pull out before the fall. As long as you are not investing during the peak of the rise and pulling out during the base of the fall, you are not taking the maximum quantity of loss. But somebody is doing it. And the reason why that has to happen to somebody is because in order for me to buy it, you have to sell it. And in order for you to sell it, I have to buy it. Or vice versa. In order for me to sell it, you have to buy it. So if you've got it and I want it, you put it up for sale, I buy it. If I've got it and you want it, I put it up for sale and you got it. So in order for me to gain a return, I have to buy it from one person cheaper than I sell it to somebody else. Now, the person that bought it from me may have to sell it for less than what he paid for. His loss is somebody else's gain. That's how the stock market operates. So for those people who jumped into Bitcoin when Bitcoin was at $90,000, when Bitcoin goes all the way back down to $40,000 or $50,000, a lot of people are going that invested when it was at $90,000 is going to have a 100% loss, or at least a 50% loss. But those individuals that invested back when Bitcoin was $20,000 last year in March just gained like 5 times more Bitcoin than what they started with. Those that invested this year when it was around $40,000 gained a $50,000 increase, which doubled their income. And those that invested when Bitcoin was at $60,000 gained a $30,000 increase, which also doubled their money, or 150%. But the fact is, depending on when you go in, depends on how far of an increase you're going to have. But if you make sure, another thing, because when you think about Bitcoin, because we always talking about the Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is going to be one of those things that's always going to be around, and um, it's not likely to crash because businesses are investing in them, not just people, and businesses outlast people. So when people get fired, people retire, people die from old age, the business is still there 100 years. So somebody's still investing in the stock. And as long as somebody's investing in the stock has a value. If you invest in Bitcoin and you invest a certain quantity of money into Bitcoin and you leave it there as a principal for Bitcoin, you get a percentage on that money regardless of the volatility of the market. Regardless of the rise and fall of Bitcoin, if you left 50 grand in Bitcoin annually and did not invest it, didn't sell it ever, just bought it, held it, they would give you interest on that because it helps maintain the value of the Bitcoin. Now, the rest of the money that you're going to be flipping out, that money is going to be money that you're going to be offsetting, which that gives Bitcoin a diversification because you could put 30, 40, 50% of the Bitcoin investment in there as a base principal that's gaining guaranteed interest versus the other 40, 50%, 30, 20% that you're trading against the market to try to get daily revenue. There's more than one way that you can work this. However, you have to make sure that when you do sell, you're selling when Bitcoin is higher than you bought it. It doesn't have to be at its peak. It just has to be higher than you bought it. And the difference between what you sell it at versus what you got is your profit. Now, some people say that you left money on the table because you pulled out early. If you pulled out when Bitcoin was 70 because you knew that it's going to go down soon and you missed that other 20, they're going to say, oh, well, you lost out on the potential to get that other 20. But I feel like you would have been better if you had 30 and you left with 70 to leave with 70 than it is to have rolled the dice for the 90 and ended up with 50. Because all it takes is for you to be asleep when the market changes, because Wall Street starts at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, 3 hours before California. And if you're still asleep while everybody else is trading money, by the time you wake up, it's their lunchtime. And by the time you get out of bed and go to the bathroom and get you some breakfast, you done lost $50,000. It's just better to walk away early and leave something on the table for somebody else to get, because we all got to eat. Long as you got enough, we don't have to be greedy about what we didn't get, what we could have got. And when you improve your skill set, you'll be able to invest in other things. And there are a lot of automated trading platforms and portfolios that can aid even the amateur investor in the ability to maintain a healthy portfolio and provide you with generated AI advice towards your investment strategies, so that if you are having a lack of understanding in the market, that these generated AI devices can help you get over those hurdles. As you experience stuff, as you learn things, you start utilizing and incorporating that into your strategies. The same way Pokemon trainers learn new moves with their Pokemon, and then that becomes the only other move that they do. They go from one move every episode to 3 moves every episode. Diversification. They go from one Pokemon every fight to 5 Pokemon. They start rotating them out. You know, the same way as what we do with skills, is that as we learn new things in our trading, business, and investment portfolios, is as we start doing new things to get better results. Doesn't mean that we're going to stop doing the other stuff. We're going to stop doing stuff that's less profitable, but we're going to spend more time doing things that are more profitable so that we can get more for the quantity of time and effort that we invest into that particular venture. In addition to that, we're always going to want to put our money in places where we get a quick return. And that's always going to be a thing. We're always looking for a quick return. And because we're always looking for a quick return, anything that's going to have a large return in a calendar year, or anything that is going to have multiple fast returns in a calendar year, is something that people are going to aim towards. But those are going to be highly volatile investments. Small returns over an extended period of time are guaranteed increases with low opportunity for a loss. that low opportunity for a loss is going to allow you to maintain a steady increase in revenue, which would allow you to maintain regular investments in the stock. Each time you take a loss, you got to kind of start from the drawing board. Even if you gained $100,000 over the course of 2 years, if you lost $100,000 in one transaction this month, you got to start over from the last 2 years worth of effort that you put into that particular stock. Likewise, when you're thinking about it that way, and then you're thinking about the value of the stocks that you're investing in and the high value dividends that you would invest in a stock that is going to funnel cash in your direction, you have to also understand that if you put your money in more stable places, you're going to be getting more stable returns, which is also one of the reasons why people buy into gold and silver. They buy and hold the value of the gold and silver until such time as they're looking for some cash. And when they sell, they typically sell when gold is high, because somebody's got to sell it in order for somebody to buy it. Now, understanding that the value of gold is going to increase in value over 5 or 10-year periods of time, 10, 20 years periods of time, you would buy it and not do anything with it for a couple decades. And you're buying the value of the stock because there's not very many places that you can buy actual gold bricks, but there are some places you can buy gold bricks, and we're going to be talking about that in one of our shows coming up soon. But the fact is that if you have gold bricks, you're going to probably want to insure those gold bricks, because somebody's going to steal those gold bricks, and when they do, you're going to want to get the monetary value of those gold bricks, which, guess what? If you're paying for insurance on the possession of those gold bricks, the cost of the insurance policy is going to offset the value of the profit from possession of the gold bricks until they get stolen. So that's an investment in an investment. And it's cute for you to look like a boss, to show off the safe in the wall or the floorboard that holds 40 or 50 gold bars in it. But you also have to understand that if you get pulled over with 100 gold bars in the back seat of your car, they're going to rob you. If you got 100 gold bars in the trunk and they get you to pop the trunk, they're going to rob you. If you get into a car crash and the tow truck company takes your car and there was 100 gold bricks in the car, you're going to get robbed. It's not likely that the car is going to still have the gold bricks in it when you get back to the car. So there aren't very many places that you can literally say, oh, I'm going to do all right with this gold brick. Then when you think about it, there's nothing, gold bricks right now are valued at $2,000 for like an ounce. And there isn't anything that you can buy that is regular bare necessities that you would be paying $4,000 for just to get it. You can give up for $200 a night. You could give up a brick for 2 months of stay. But I mean, you could even negotiate and say, hey, I'll give you this brick for 3 months of stay. But is a gold brick valued at one trip to Walmart to buy groceries? Not unless you're Shaq. Shaq spent $74,000 in a Walmart. That might be equivalent to about 35 bricks. But the average individual, $300 to $500 a piece, where bricks are $2,000 to $4,000 a brick. Nobody's shaving gold shavings off of a brick to go to the grocery store and go spend. So buying bricks and holding them in safes in the house is not really doing anything other than showing off. And the fact is that it's going to be harder for you to sell it, because when you take it to a pawn shop, they're not going to give you the monetary value, the trade value of the gold. And you got to prove that it's not stolen. So you got that problem also. So you're only going to get a percentage, but you're able to hawk the gold and get, or you could be like some of these people that are the next generation of YNs, melt the gold down, which actually causes you to lose some of the gold, and then turn it into some jewelry. where now you're walking around with a few $100,000 of 90% pure gold or 92% pure gold around your neck, where again, you'll get robbed. So, responsible investments, I keep telling you guys, it's like, buy the stock, buy the gold stock. Just buy the gold stock. Let somebody else hold the actual gold and you buy the gold stock. And then because you own gold stock, you can just sell the gold stock when the gold stock is high and then buy back into the gold stock when the gold stock starts becoming low. Um, Also, you can offset purchasing gold stock with purchasing silver stock, because if silver stock rises when gold stock falls and gold stock rises when silver stock falls, you can actually buy gold when gold is low and then sell gold to buy silver when silver is high. And then you sell the silver to buy gold when gold is high. And you can continue to maintain your money with gold and silver where the market is not impacting gold and silver as readily as if you invested in a blue chip company and that blue chip company is negatively impacted by the current happenstances of our e-commerce driven society these days. That blue collar company could potentially go out of business, which means that a surefire thing came in last place. It's always a thing. It's just up until it comes in last place, it's usually what everyone bets on in order to make their returns. So somebody asked me last week, are vendor cards valuable? I mean, more so than collectible trading cards, but the fact is that there are enough risks involved that if you have not started doing it, I recommend that you get used to option trading first before you start running over there trying to do vendor cards. While you're doing option trading, you should be looking into how you would disperse those cards, how much it would cost to set everything up, for the size network you're trying to accomplish. What are you dispersing those cards for, and how do you plan on recouping a profit off of the disbursement of those vendor cards? And that is when you would be able to start getting into the vendor card situation. You also have to remember that while it is not heavily regulated, that there are still some regulations, and you will have to work on how they're going to get bought and sold in order for you to make profits off of the purchases of the vendor cards. So for the experienced individual, yeah, probably be for a good thing. For the novice or advanced individual, probably not so much. And if this is your very first day in investing, where you're thinking about taking the extra money you're going to get from your income tax refund and start investing in stocks in the upcoming year, vendor cards is not for you, because there's too much at stake and you don't have enough to give. Make sure that, I've said it multiple times in the episode today, for you guys to take a look at your risk volatility, the tolerance levels of the risk volatility. And your tolerance levels is how much money can you lose without panicking and having a nervous breakdown. How much money can you lose without negatively impacting your standard of living? If you are investing your rent money and you lose it, you lose your house. That means that you're not able to handle this particular type of investment. If you're investing in something and if you lose that money, nothing happens to you, then you can afford to put that money up to that particular investment. If you need that money for something else and you're investing that money because you're not using it right now, your tolerance is not that high, because if you lose that money, you can't do what you need that money for. As long as the money is still there, you can do whatever you want. But once that money comes up missing in that stock, you need that money. You can't take that money and go and take care of what you need to take care of. And that means that your tolerance level is very low. That's one of the reasons why I was telling everybody to start off by getting you a few hundred bank accounts that have the 5 to 7% interest yields on them, and use those as a guaranteed investment for your emergency fund, where you can then take the 5 to 7% interest annually out of those accounts and then use the interest to invest in high risk stuff. You can use the interest out of those accounts and invest in index 500s. You can invest it into treasury bonds, and you can utilize that to give you a basis of guaranteed interest for the next 20 years. And then if you have an emergency, you would be going after the principal from your checking accounts to take care of your emergency, as opposed to tampering with your stocks and bonds, because early termination of stock and bond investments and CD investments is that you lose a massive percentage of the amount of money that you had invested and the interest, which forces you to leave the money there. So if you have to put the money there and leave it there for an extended period of time, number of years, that is money that you cannot need. And the most effective way for you to do that is for you to invest in a bunch of, since everybody can have 8,000 checking accounts if they want them, you just have to invest in ways to make money for you. And that's the most effective way to do it for individuals that are coming up from nothing. Is you can start up a checking account with no money down in some situations, and some of these bank accounts have no usage fees and no holding fees, and they have a maximum requirement of $500 or less to be deposited into the account to receive a guaranteed 5 to 7% interest on that account for the life of the account. Those are the accounts that you guys can be like, bet I'm going to put my money in this bank and I'm going to get 5% return every year. Put down $1,000, get back 50. Okay, it's not a lot of money because it's just $1,000. But guess what? The whole time you putting it there, you're getting 50. You can open up a bunch of other accounts and do the same thing, and you could potentially go from getting 50 for 1,000 to getting 500 for 10,000. Yeah, it's not a lot of money because it's small, it's peanuts, but it's guaranteed to not be affected by inflation, which also means that you have the capability to take that extra principal or the extra interest off of the principal and go and invest that somewhere else where your principal is still there. But the 10 grand that's hovering, I would recommend that you have at least 20 to 30 grand in the bank collecting 5% interest, because that should be the full cusp of your emergency fund. And then if something happens that costs you up to $20,000 to fix that problem, you can pull it out of your emergency fund and never impact your the principal of any of your stocks and bonds and mutualities, which then gives you the ability to invest with confidence. And then you can take the dividends paid off from some of your guaranteed low risk investments and invest those dividends into higher risk portfolios. So now, because you're taking your profit and investing in stocks and bonds and mutualities, and taking the profit from the stocks, bonds, and mutualities and investing in higher risk stocks, bonds, and mutualities, and investing in people when you're doing peer-to-peer loans or business-to-business loans, your volatile investments that are going to give you guaranteed returns in some situations would be giving you the guaranteed returns because you are able to wait for the deal that works for you, as opposed to having a deal that doesn't work for you because you really wanted to lock in a deal. Also, one of the things that is beneficial for you is that because you're using the interest of your interest to invest in these volatile stocks, if you lose it all, it was interest. It wasn't the principal. So does it impact you that you lost it? No, man. I mean, it frustrates you a little bit, but it doesn't financially impact you that you lost the interest of your interest, because you still had an increase before you lost that. You had an increase on your principal before you lost that. And what you lost was less than what you gained, which means that you are overall in the profit, which means that you are not negatively affected by it, which means that the tolerance to risk that money is high. These are the things that we have to try to pay attention to when we're trying to invest in stocks, bonds, and mutualities. And these are the things we have to pay attention to when we're trying to invest in vendor cards. So since I was able to iron out all the questions that you guys have for vendor cards, I wanted to say thank you for coming to the show. If you have any thoughts or if you hear anything that you want to talk about when it comes to investing, put that information in the comments. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Make sure that you follow us on Twitch and Twitter. Share the episodes with people that you know that may need this knowledge, or people that you know that may disagree with this knowledge, and encourage them to definitely dive in and put their responses into the comment section after the show, or send me some direct messages onto the podcast. And if you've got any statements that you'd like to add, we typically take comments and put them up on the show on a regular basis. So you have an open invitation to provide more knowledge than what you believe that I have on the podcast to help educate the individuals on the show. Either way, this is an open forum, open-minded podcast where we're providing rational information for individuals to be better thems. and improve our worthiness as higher valued men. So also, if you have an experience that you want to share, it's always good to throw down on that. There goes Vera. How you doing, Vera? And let's see. If you have any experiences with vendor cards, make sure that you guys give us some information on your vendor cards. And if you think that it is smart to invest in vendor cards going into the upcoming year, let me know what you think about vendor cards. If you're looking for more insight into the world of vendor cards or investing, make sure that you keep following us and check out some of our other videos. Now, Vera is asking, how am I? Vera, I'm tired. I am burned out. I am burning candles at both ends. I got multiple businesses that I've got to tend to, and I've got very small quantity of staff to make sure that everything gets done, because I like to keep everything close to the vest. As a result, I make sure that I take care of all of my clients, and while I'm taking care of all of my clients, I have to recognize that most of my clients are in Asia. So the largest quantity of my clients being in Asia requires me to do things overnight that most people are sleeping while I'm working. And then, I have to make sure that I take care of the rest of you guys here on the podcast, because everything that we talk about buying and selling and investing is the same things. I don't just talk about this for the sake of talking about it so that I can hear myself talk. I actually talk about these things because this is the stuff that I do. These are the things that I look into because I either am already involved in it or I'm planning on getting involved in it really soon. I told you guys about offshore banking. I told you guys about offshore investing because if it's not already happening, it needs to happen. You could take $70,000 and go and get you over 100,000 won, or actually, no, you get you over 1,000,000 won, and you can invest in a market that's giving you 30% interest or 40% interest on 1,000,000 won, which means you're getting about 340,000 won, which technically accounts for roughly, $20,000-$30,000 that you'd be getting back off of a investment in a different country, which actually is going to end up with different tax arrangements than what you have with the U.S. government. And likewise, since you already got money over there, if you've already got offshore bank accounts over there, then you're looking at potentially having no currency exchange fees when you decide to fly over there and go and live, because you're just taking whatever identification that you have for yourself and whatever identification you have for your banking information to go over to that bank and withdraw money from that bank in their currency, and then go over there and live life in that country instead of flying with a briefcase full of cash. You could just fly over there with a debit card and an ID, and you can fly over there with the clothes on your back and just buy new clothes every day instead of having to waste time on laundry. If that's what you wanted to do, save money on luggage with your flight. And then when you go into these other countries and like places like Asia, where you can fly throughout Asia for free if you have a U.S. passport, so you might be paying $2,000 to get there, but you're not paying for any other flights that you take while you're out there. So now you can take airplanes like cabs and just fly from city to city, country to country while you're in Asia. Just book a flight and go. This is how you're able to make your money go further, which means that you can have multiple business opportunities in Asia if you can fly from one bank to the next and not have to pay for the plane ticket, which allows you to be able to move your money around, because you will withdraw it out of one out of one account and deposit it in another. So she said, good for you. Thought good to know this. You're trying here. It's like, yeah, well, that's kind of what we do. We try to make sense for the fellas, because I mean, we have like a 90% followership that are men, and we try to become higher value men by finding a way to make it make sense for us and make money for us, because as men, we need to make sure that we are making the right choices, because I mean, we're not going to be able to find ourselves a valuable partner if we have to meet the expectations of being financially valuable as men in order for us to be accepted by a woman that we would consider reasonably valuable to us. So if first thing you got to do is fix yourself before you start pointing fingers at other people to expect them to change. And that's why I waste a lot of my I invest a lot of my time and effort into making sure that you guys know what we could be doing and should be doing, so that we're in a better environment for ourselves, because being successful is what men really need to do. to be recognized in our Western society as men. Vera says, seems like I don't belong here. I have zero money to invest. I live paycheck to paycheck. Well, you know, truth be told, most Americans do. That's one of the reasons why there's only 1% of the wealthy in this country. And there are ways that you can invest. And one of the things you can do to not live from paycheck to paycheck is to spend less money on less things that you don't need. When you start shaving off stuff that you want, that you don't need, and only taking care of the things that you do need, liquidating expenses, you could start with upkeep. Instead of getting fancy hairstyles and makeup and all this other stuff, you could save a couple $1,000s a month on making yourself look pretty. And that couple $1,000s a month, you can invest in something else. The same way men can save money on paying for dates and invest on something else. $200 to $300 a date here in America could a bank account at $200 or $300 to give you about $10 a year of interest. Easy. Just simply taking the date money and putting it into a checking account and letting it sit there and gain interest for 12 months. You made $10 instead of spending 200. And that's just one aspect of things. And every little bit counts. You got to understand it's not the short, fast route. It's the snail's pace, the tortoise versus the hare. The hare is high risk and not necessarily willing to succeed. The tortoise is the one that's going to get you to where you want to go. The slow pace is what you're aiming for. And if you're aiming for the slow pace, the slow and consistent pace, then you're aiming for the long term. So when I ask you what your 20-year plan is for retirement, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't really have much of a plan as to how you're not going to be able to work in 20 years and you have enough money to take care of your standard of living. You might have an idea, but you don't actually have a plan implemented, because if you're not putting money away where money can start making money for you, then you don't have the ability to make money for you. There are some individuals that start investing younger, or some individuals that inherit a large quantity of money halfway through their life. But more often than not, they have individuals that just don't think about saving. When they get a promotion, they buy themselves something nice. When they get a raise, they buy themselves something nice. When they achieve something, they waste money on their achievement. Sometimes people celebrate their success by partying with their friends at their own expense, where their friends are showing up for free and benefiting from the party. And all of these ways are ways that you waste money. For example, birthday parties. You're not supposed to spend money on your birthday, because your birthday is supposed to be the celebration of you. So everybody that values you is supposed to be spending their money on you. But that's still wastefulness, because if they really value you and they're really going to do something for you, instead of them spending a bunch of money on cakes and balloons and everybody getting wasted, they could actually put all their money together and invest in a interest gaining portfolio for you, where you would make more money off of that. Instead of wasting money on an engagement ring from a fiance, or you would have them invest that into a high interest stock option. Instead of wasting $100,000 on the desire to have this big, fancy, lavish wedding showing off at the expense of your husband, if he bought you a stock option at the value of $100,000 over the course of your 5 or 10-year marriage, you're looking at potentially having $200,000 to $300,000 in an account dedicated to you, where when you divorce him, all you got to do is take that $200,000 and you're getting what, $5,000 a month, $4,000 a month income guaranteed. That's alimony. That's better than alimony, because he doesn't have to quit his job to keep you from getting the money. He put that aside specifically for you. So when you guys divorce, that is all you should get, because shit, that's more than what most people get, believe it or not. She says, be here for women to those also, because we need your help too. Yeah, well, women do need help from a man's perspective, because women believe that they can take over a man's role, and unfortunately that's not the case. Women are supposed to maintain a feminine role, but they don't. They expect to take over the masculine role. They do not feel comfortable with having feminine men, but they want to maintain a masculine role. You cannot have two masculine people in the same relationship and that relationship maintains healthy. One must be submissive to the other. Two leaders cannot give instructions to each other and no one is willing to follow instructions. Women select men to lead, and protect and provide, which means that women are supposed to follow instructions from their leader and follow the instructions from their protector, and then put in effort to earn what they're being provided. But that does not mean that the woman is less of a woman because she is doing that, because the greatest men in the world are great because of the woman leading from the rear, when the woman was capable of observing the situation, seeing the mistakes that are being made, and then be able to adapt to those mistakes, instead of being on the front lines making that mistake, where now the boyfriend or the husband has to play collateral damage to the mistakes of the woman. If the woman was following the lead of the man, then the woman would be capable of playing collateral damage to the mistakes of the man. In the 60s, 50s, 40s, that's what women used to do. Women used to handle the budget. Now in modern 2024, you can't give a woman $1,000. You'll never see it again. But in 1996, in 1985, in 1972, you gave a woman $1,000, you could potentially see $1,100 come back off of that. I mean, back in the day, in the 1920s, a man wouldn't know what his outfit size was. He wouldn't know what his pant size was because his wife made his clothes, and if she didn't make his clothes, she bought his clothes. He didn't know what his shoe size was. His wife knew that stuff. She bought his clothes for him. She dressed him. She fed him. He can't eat certain stuff because his wife says no, because she buys all the groceries. She pays for everything in the house. You want control, you got to be responsible. The fact is that she took his money that he worked for, and she pays for everything in the house. So when he wants something, what does he got to do? Go and ask his wife. Women want that kind of control, but they don't want the responsibility that comes with it. How can you say that you want to be in charge, but you don't want the responsibility of making sure that the ship doesn't sink? You can't be the captain if you're not going to steer the ship. If you're going to be on the boat like a passenger, then you can't do that. Vera said, I've never gotten hairstyles and stuff. If I wanted my nails done, I'd buy a $3.95 bottle of nail polish. Just know not all women are buying that stuff. I'm going to be honest with you, Vera. $3.95 for every time that you buy the $3.95 is still something that you could have invested towards something else, because your nails are naturally not requiring nail polish. And each bottle of nail polish that you decide to buy starts adding up. 10 bottles of nail polish for 10 different colors, even if it's 10 different months, still $40. Every penny counts. And everybody has a habit. Everybody has a habit. Whether it's video games, whether it's shopping, whether you like to buy yourself nice clothes, whether you like to buy yourself bargain basement clothes, but you just go buy a lot of it. If you're a thrift store person where you like to go to garage sales and just buy little trinkets, everybody's got a habit. Everybody spends their money on something. But the fact is that those of us, because truth be told, Vera, I can tell you, 99% of Americans do not only pay bills year round. You splurge and buy expensive foods from time to time to indulge. You splurge on family and friends to show them that you appreciate them and value them. You splurge on your partner if you're going to be that kind of woman, because most of the time it's the man's responsibility. And when you celebrate, you take money and you celebrate. The 10 to 20% of your income that you spend on your entertainment, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, that's wasteful money that you don't necessarily need to spend money on. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to say I don't have a Netflix account. I'm saying that the fact is that financially, you're still wasting money somewhere. Now, Vera's going to ask, well, what are the men giving up? Well, Vera, the men are required to give up pretty much half of their estate once they get involved in a relationship. The men are required to pay for the first 5 dates before the woman commits. The man is required to pay for the rest of the dating phase, if the woman moves into the man's house, now the woman's become a financial liability to the man. The man has to pay for the engagement ring. Then he's got to pay for the wedding. Sometimes he's got to pay for the honeymoon. And then because that's his wife, the man has to pay for the woman for the rest of his life. And then on his last breath, she inherits whatever he did not get a chance to use before he died. And if they divorce before that, the man has to pay for the divorce. But when you talk about what does a man pay for himself, men have wasteful spending habits. They soup up their cars, buy expensive stereo systems, rims, tires, run flats, rubber band tires that cost $350 a tire. Men buy jewelry. Men buy jewelry for women. Men buy clothes. Men buy clothes for women. Men buy Jordans. Anybody who's spending $350 in Jordans is wasting your money when a regular pair of shoes costs $35. You spend money on your kids when you have kids. You spend money on name brand clothes for your kids when your kids don't even know what designer clothes mean. And then you have the fact that the difference between putting the child in a well-balanced school that's going to teach your child versus putting your child in a prestigious school, you're wasting money on the child's education. And some people are going to say, oh, wait, I thought you never wasted money on a child's education. You know that you could benefit a child's education by donating to your child's local community college or community high school and use that donation towards a non-profit organization, because a high school that is government funded is a non-profit organization and you can get a tax write-off, but you also could get pulled with the school. So instead of trying to spend all this extra money to pay for tuition for private school, you could take that tuition money and give donations to a public school, and then the principal would be nicer to your child. What about that? People don't think about things like that. That's something simple. If you're going to throw money away, throw it away as a tax write-off. You gave $10,000 to your local school is going to love you, and you just wrote $10,000 off your taxes. She says, well, then why are you not in a t-shirt and jeans? So she's going to ask a ridiculous question. Why am I not in a t-shirt and jeans? Well, the reason why I am not in a t-shirt and jeans, Vera, is because when I went to college, I invested on a wardrobe. And I went to college about 14 years ago. And I spent 8 years in college as a career student, where I was making about $70,000 a year as a career student, in addition to my full-time job. And my college education paid for my laptops, all of my clothes, my standard of living, and all of my vehicles. I walked out of my college education with no requirement to pay student debt, and everything that I bought during my college education, I own. That's why I have an expensive suit, Vera, because I did not waste money unnecessarily on things that I did not need. And the fact that this expensive looking jacket may have cost me $300 or $400 15 years ago, Vera, if you divide the price of the coat when I first bought it over the number of years that I've used it, I am paying less than $100 a year for my outfit. Actually, at this point, I'm paying less than $50 a year for my outfit. I've actually effectively spent less than $100 a year for my entire $20,000 wardrobe, Vera. Whereas most women cannot say that they have not spent $10,000 in 1 year on their wardrobe, where they spend, in fact, over $5,000 a year on clothes. And some of the clothes they don't wear annually. And some of the clothes they actually give away because they don't have enough space in their closet, because they don't have enough time to wear. They have more than 365 outfits in their closet. Some women actually have to pay for storage because they don't have enough place to keep their closets, the stuff in their closet. That's why I have an expensive jacket, because it was a fiscally responsible decision almost 20 years ago. My size does not change. The jacket does not require tailor. The jacket does, it actually, ironically, machine washable, so I don't have to pay for dry cleaning. And it is a very, very nice outfit that has lasted me almost 2 decades. You buy an expensive item one time and you use it for 20 years, that's not a waste of money. You buy a pair of red bottom velvet shoes that looks good for tonight's event, and then you're going to try to bring it back to Ross or Sears or Saxton's to get your money back off of it because you couldn't afford it before you bought it. That's a waste of money. That's the difference, Vera. So she says, well, why am I not going to wear jeans instead of the fancy jacket? Well, and now I got something for your jeans, for Chris, because actually jeans cost about $70 to $100. Sometimes the pants that comes with the jacket actually comes with the jacket. The jacket itself might be pricey, but the pants come with it. The vest comes with it. Sometimes a tie and a handkerchief comes with it. Sometimes you can get the suit, it might cost somewhere between $500 and $750 for the whole suit, and it even comes with cufflinks and a lapel pin and a tie clip. But it's $750 for an entire outfit, where a woman will spend $1,000 on a dress for just a dress. Not the bra, not the panties, not the girder belt, not the waist trainer, not the shoes. A man in a suit can buy a pair of shoes for $60. A man in a suit can buy 5 pairs of shoes for $250. But a man in jeans is going to buy a pair of Jordans for $250 for 1 pair of shoes. Where if it gets scuffed, you don't even really feel comfortable with wearing those shoes again. Also, you also have to remember this, that social classism has dress codes in upscale locations. So one of the other reasons why buying suits matters is because prestigious individuals are not going to have long white t-shirts and jeans on with their pants hanging off their behinds wearing sneakers. Men of value in high value locations are probably going to be dressed casual with a button-down shirt, tie, and slacks, which is why no jeans, or a suit and tie, blazer, vest at the very least, and tie with slacks, matching outfit. That's why you would buy a suit, because as a individual in a suit, you are not going to be restricted to certain dress codes in certain areas where they're not going to not let you in because of the color of your skin. They're going to not let you in because of your attire choice. But the attire choice is stereotypically assigned to lower class, lower valued individuals, which is why if it's a suit and tie affair, anybody with a handkerchief hanging out their back pocket can't come, which usually deters some of what they call the riffraff. And then you say that you work as a banker, then you understand that as a banker, you understand that over 8,800 financial institutions between credit unions and banks. And if you have access to an account with your credit unions, you have access to certain privileges that your credit union offers exclusively to its memberships. Like, for example, take those of you that have credit unions. If you are a military, ex-military, or related to a military agent, you go to some of those military credit unions, and places like USAA is offering less than $100 for car insurance. Geico is charging you $300 for car insurance per month. You could be paying car insurance for 33% of the current value of your car insurance because of your affiliation with your credit union. But you have to be an affiliate of the credit union for a number of months or a number of years before you receive those benefits. So the fact of the matter is that you still, as a banker, should be able to know that, man, I could pick up certain bank accounts. I can pick up certain money market accounts. I can pick up certain CDs from certain banks, because a banker is a job title. And you either are a teller at the front desk where you're counting money for the people that walk in, or you're a bank manager that counts the safe after the tellers go home. But your job is to count money. As a banker, that doesn't provide you with the prestige to have a conversation with a man about saying what can and cannot be bought. But as a banker, you are able to experience people with bad spending habits. When you check people's bank accounts and you see that they're in a hole because they spent more money than they made, and for some reason they're still charging their debit card, even though their debit card is in a negative balance. You can see, as a banker, plenty of customers that ride negative balances for weeks and months at a time. But you also understand the requirements to get a loan, consolidate debt, is harder to do when you don't have good payment history with your bank. So as a bank teller, you're able to understand that some of the information that I'm telling you is quite valuable. It just has to be received by those individuals that see it. And you say, so why gear your channel against women? Well, I don't gear my channel against women. Women gear themselves against women. She said, all I'm saying is I'm a penny pincher, but I get what you're trying to do and I respect it. I don't think you get what I'm trying to do, because if you assume that I am against women, then you do not get what I'm trying to do. I'm just about as much of a penny pincher as you are, because as I told you, I bought a wardrobe back in 2012 or 2010, and here I am in 2024 still wearing the same wardrobe. But when I do a compare and contrast between the decision-making skills of women versus the decision-making skills of men, when women decide that, oh, he's going after women because women don't want to accept the fact that women do make these types of financial decisions, the fact is that that is the truth of the reality of the situation. It's not because I want to go after women, but who spends the most money in a relationship? Men spend money in the relationship on women, and women spend money in a relationship on themselves and their children. So typically, advertisers gear advertisement towards female shoppers because women are more likely to spend the money than men. Then they will gear other advertisements towards gifts for female shoppers so that the men can go and buy from the women or for the women. Then the last thing that they do is they use subliminal messaging by selling stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with women, but have the commercial all about attractive women, leaving a man to believe that if I buy this, women will like it and they will come and talk to me. Still utilizing the fact that a woman will appreciate you spending your money on this. Face it, truth be told, advertisement, sex sales. If a man wants attention from a woman, a man has to spend money the way a woman wants him to spend money in order to get her attention. That's not taking shots at women. That's just speaking truth. Denial dictates that women don't want to hear that. And a lot of women don't want to be listening to a podcast that's going to point out the fallacies that a lot of women perform. Even if it's not all women, even if a lot more women are starting to become more realistic and more logical, there are a number of single women that definitely damage the dating pool in a factor where the average man has a harder time to get things done. So truth is that, I do not take shots. I actually, matter of fact, if you would have been here yesterday, I was giving the women so much advice about how not to be involved with the bad man and to pay attention to these negative expectations that they are allowing to occur because they're ignoring the red flags. I think I'd spent 2 hours on the show yesterday, and you weren't here for that one. But because I'm talking about how there are literally financially irresponsible women that men have to date because women do not have responsibility the way they used to have back in the day. And that's what's changing the dating pool. And that's what's causing with middle-aged women a lot more difficulty to have the ability to find a man that is willing to date them, because men want a woman that will cooperate with them, and women stop being willing to cooperate with men by the time they're 25, which is why men are going after women that are 24 when those men are 45 and 50 years old. Women want financially stable men. Men are not financially stable because men are financially irresponsible until they're in their 30s. I've talked about that too. That's not even taking shots at women. That's literally speaking facts. Men are financially irresponsible from 16 to about 30 to 35. Men start becoming financially responsible at about 35, 40 years old. Men's 40-year plan puts them at about 50 to 65 years old before they're financially stable. Women that want already financially stable men are 18 to 25, dating men 55 to 70 because the men don't have money to spend on her. He's living from check to check because he was wasting his money in his early 20s. Now, the men that are properly guided by somebody who's going to teach them, don't waste your money on frivolous things, that man is going to be more financially successful at a younger age. Women that have not experienced negative relationships with men are going to be more cooperative with men at their younger ages. So the women that are set in their ways, that are refusing to change, that are demanding men to meet the woman's expectations while the woman has no interest in meeting his expectations, are the product of negative relationships over the course of the 20 years of adulthood. That's not taking shots at women. That's just pointing out the statistical facts. But women are also going to say that it is misogynistic and in some way, shape, or form creepy for a 45-year-old man to be selected by an 18-year-old woman. But it's okay for the 18-year-old woman to date somebody old enough to be her father. You're not going to shame the woman for dating an older man, but you'll shame the man for dating the younger woman. So when we start talking about how balance isn't there, you say, well, I'm taking shots at women. I'm not taking shots at women. It's not balanced. I'm a man of uniformity. So when I see something that's not balanced, I ask you, why is it not balanced? You don't have an answer for that question outside of some people just do stupid stuff. And they don't feel like that same thing should happen to them, which also makes them selfish and hypocritical. But that does not mean that I'm specifically targeting women, because I've done about 45 different episodes over the past month and a half about how to make more money for everyone. But the reason why about 90% of the podcasts are men is because I am giving men advice about making more financial success for themselves. And if they're interested in finding a woman that values them and respects them and appreciates them, they can do that, because all women have, not all women, the majority of women have the same reasonable expectation for financial success in men. So once, as a man, you meet that expectation, your options open dramatically. You don't have to accept lower value women, because the moderate to high value women, you meet their expectations. Now you just got to pick one that meets your expectations. So here again, I'm doing it for the sake of the women, because I'm saying, men, meet the expectations of the higher value woman. That way you can go and get you a higher value woman. So now the women 100% of the time will have a good man that will give her everything that she's expecting to have, which now puts the responsibility on her to say, are you willing to meet the man's expectations? Now, once I start saying that, that's when you say, well, there goes the misogynistic again. So Vera said, I don't buy heels and all that. What I'm saying is, you're basically saying all women are the same. We aren't. I'm not saying that all women are the same. I'm saying that the majority of women that are negatively impacting financial success in co-income relationships are the women that need to rethink their financial stability. I am also saying that the individuals that women and men alike that spend 90 to 99% of their income are living above their means. Because while you may not be spending your money on some of the examples that I'm expressing, does not mean that there's not something that you're buying that you don't need to buy, that there's something that you're spending on. Because something as simple as overspending on groceries versus buying reasonably with groceries, something as simple as always eating out to dinner instead of cooking at home, something as simple as catering to friends and family instead of consolidating your resources, is a way that you're wasting the money that you're not paying on your day-to-day bills. Something simple as overbuying, where you're buying a car that's outside of your financial means. So now you're overpaying on this car note and you can't really afford it. The insurance is high on it. You can't really afford it. Men and women do this. It's not targeting women. It's just poor choices of the lower income 99% of America. People who are living at 99, or some people who are living at 120% of their income, where they got to borrow from check cashing places and cash advance places. Amscott makes money off of millions of people, and it's not all women. It's just all people who don't know how to balance their budget. But the irony is that in order to work for Amscott, you got to know how to balance a budget. How do they find financially responsible people in the same market that they're providing extra money to for profit for financially irresponsible people? Because it's not everybody, but it is the majority of people, because that's the market. Financially irresponsible people is the market. Financially responsible people benefit from that market. That's how that works. She says, right, but I'm saying not all women are how you say they are. That's just the truth. Yeah, and it is the truth that the majority of the women that are doing it are the reason why the economy has inflation. And it's not just women, because the larger majority of men that are wasting their money on cars, guns, and girls, they're the reason why the other half of the economy is inflated. So when I say the 99% of population, I'm not saying 99% of women, because women are 50% of the population, 50.1% of the population. So half of all spending comes from women, but the majority of all spending is going to be women. And she says, you're right, some women disgust me honestly. Yeah. And it's just the worst part is, so this is one of those situations, because she says, I just feel you assume. I drive a 2001 Ford Explorer, but I feel you. No, I'm not assuming. I don't have to assume. because you can buy I bought a 2008 Cadillac cash up front, but I also could have financed that same car. The car wasn't worth financing. That's just an irresponsible move. The interest that I would have paid on financing a car that was 20 years old is not the value of the car. So even though you have a 2001 Ford Explorer, if you paid notes on that car instead of buying the car cash up front, you're spending more money on a vehicle than the vehicle is worth. Something just as simple as that is the lack of financial responsibility or financial knowledge that people don't get. And it's not taught in college. It's not taught in high school. Home ec used to be about how to cook and clean and take care of the house. They don't really have that anymore. We have microwaves and TV dinners. But never in the history of college and never in the history of high school did anyone have a class that taught you how to save money, invest money, not just put money in a bank account. Saving money means not spending money on stuff that you don't need, and then taking the money that you didn't spend on stuff that you don't need and invest it into things that can make money for you. There isn't a class for that for the average American school. But in the wealthy elite schools, for the top 1% rich people, that's exactly what they teach the kids how to do. They teach the kids how to network. That's why some of us believe that some rich people are idiots, because they don't need to know how to read, write, and count. They need to know how to hire an accountant that knows how to read, write, and count. But they need to know how to network to find the right accountant that knows how to read, write, and count. They need to know how to find the right lawyer that will read, write, and count on their behavior. You don't have to know everything about everything. You just need to know everyone that knows everything about everything and pay them to know what you need to know and then act on your behalf. The king's court in the Renaissance phase, the king's court was a group of individuals, men and women alike, that had more knowledge than the king in specialized fields that advised the king based on their knowledge. And then the king, like a judge, would make decisions as to what is going to happen to the kingdom. But the king didn't know everything about everything. But the queen followed the lead of the king and ran the kingdom when the king was gone. The queen didn't run the kingdom in front of the king. The queen ran the kingdom when the king was off to war doing what? Conquering more land to expand the kingdom that the queen controls. Never am I over here saying, oh, well, women are just bad. Not saying that. But I am saying that when you point out the difference between good, you say, oh, you're going to go draw now. Probably should. But the difference between people who make responsible decisions versus people who don't actually help you make the decisions between individuals that are going to benefit your financial investment portfolios and your entrepreneurships and your goals for your 20-year retirement plan versus people that are going to negatively impact that. Now, as a woman, you'll be able to take this particular type of advice and utilize it for yourself, because it doesn't just help you with picking the friends that are going to be wasteful and invite you on cruises and vacations and Airbnb trips and all this other stuff where you're living at 90% of your income and you're taking an extra couple $100 to go on a trip with one of your friends because they want to go. You may not be that kind of woman, but some women actually do that. But likewise, guess what some women actually have? They have boyfriends that will drive their car around with his other girlfriend in the car, and neither one of them's putting gas in it. You don't have to be the irresponsible person in order for you as a woman to understand that people make irresponsible decisions, and you, first person accountability, are responsible for your decisions, and you're also responsible for the decisions of the people around you. You are responsible for allowing people to make bad decisions around you. You are responsible for financial decisions that negatively impact you, and you're also responsible for the individuals that make bad decisions around you that negatively impact your bottom line. So this podcast isn't about taking shots at women. No, this podcast is about men being financially successful. It will aid women in being financially successful because women can do everything that men can do and more, because there is nothing that a man can do that a woman cannot do, but women can give birth and men cannot. So can I say that, in fact, genetically, women are, in fact, better than men in every way, shape, or form? Of course. Do women utilize that to their advantage? No. Can I say that the logic and reason of men make a lot more sense than the emotional dictatorship of women? Yes. Men sacrifice their bodies and minds in order for them to make an extra dollar, which is why they get the most dangerous job that nobody else wants, because it's the highest paying job. Women sacrifice their bodies in adult industries to make money that is less physically strenuous. I mean, I can't really say that it's that less physically strenuous because you're working up a lot of cardio to be on that OnlyFans account, but they're not actually breaking their back and busting up their kneecaps and fracturing ankles, lifting heavy objects and hauling a bunch of stuff and working on oil rigs where they could get washed away with the tide, because that's considered a man's job. Not because you won't get hired as a woman, but because you feel like that's not the kind of job that you want to do. So at no point is this podcast about taking shots at women and saying that women aren't worth it. At no point is this podcast about just sitting over here making it seem like all women are a problem, because all women are not a problem. But you have to understand that the majority of women that are not girlfriend worthy are still single. You also have to understand that the majority of women that are not wife material are not married. So then you also have to understand that single unmarried men that are going into a dating pool of women that are not worthy of being girlfriends or wives still have to be sifted through to find the women that are worth being girlfriends and wives. And that means that while you say that I'm picking on all women, I'm not. I'm telling you that there's a larger majority of single unmarried women that are not worth dating than there are single women worth dating. And the number of women that are married and are taken are equal or greater than the number of women that are single, which also means that the quantity of women that are not worth dating is probably equivalent to the quantity of police officers that don't deserve a job. Doesn't mean all the cops are bad, but the ones that are beating everybody up are really leaving a bad taste in everybody's mouth in regular society, when you understand that there's about 5,000 police officers for every 5 million people. And out of that 5,000 police officers, all it takes is 150 to 200 police officers to give the whole force a bad name. Likewise, with 125 million women, out of 125 million women, all it takes is 25 million women to give women a bad name. The other 100 million women could be perfect. But out of the 100 million women that are perfect, you've got 25 of them that are single. 25 million women that are single, because 23% of women are single, unmarried. And out of the 23% of single and unmarried women, probably 50% of that are not worth dating. So you're looking at what, 30, 40 million women that are not married, not dating somebody, or at least not admitting to dating somebody. And out of that, about 20 million of them are worth marrying. Out of 125 million, about 20 million of them are worth dating and marrying. 50% of men that are still single and unmarried, probably without child support, definitely doesn't have alimony. Out of the 50% of men that are single and never been married, you're looking at about 75 million men. And out of the 75 million men that are available, you have statistically approximately 74% of them that make less than $100,000 a year. So out of the 75 million men, about 25 million single men make over $100,000 a year, which leaves the other 50 million men that are available for the 20 million good women that don't make enough money to meet the expectations of a woman. Now, that's just math, where, keep in mind, notice what just happened there. The ratio of men to women in 30 and 40 years old is 2 women to 1 man. But in the early 20s, it is 2 men to 1 woman, and the dynamic dramatically shifts as everyone gets older. So while women are not willing to share a man with another woman because they want monogamy so that they can keep the resources of the man to themselves, the women that don't feel like being bothered, their stomach hurts, they're tired, their back hurts, they have a headache, could really tag in another woman, because you're still going to get the same amount of money from this man regardless. and then not have to perform for the man because another woman's taking your place at your discretion. Women don't see that as a viable and factual acceptance. However, men are not going to say, hey, I'm going to meet her financial expectations, even if I've got to sign on to 8 or 9 or 10 or 12 other men and be one of 12 men because I can't afford to pay for what she's looking for. No, a man is going to say, well, let me go find a woman that's more financially reasonable. But a woman is not going to say, I'm going to do what it takes to satisfy this man so that he doesn't need another woman. Women say, nope, you will accept me as I am, and I don't feel like doing it 20 days out of the month. And there are some times where I don't feel like being bothered with you for 6 months out of the year. The difference in mentality between men and women is an off balance. And the difference in mentality between the two needs to be talked about. And while I talk about how it doesn't make sense, how the difference in mentality is there and the expectation to be treated equally is the expectation of the feminist woman, I say it doesn't make sense because you're asking for what you're not willing to produce. Now, how is that taking a shot at a woman? Make it make sense for me, Vera. Because let's be real, there are some women out there that are asking for they're not willing to produce. And then the men are being called creepy and pedos because they're claimed to be grooming women when a man makes a reasonable proposition. Do what I ask you to do, get access to my resources. You like the quantity of resources I have, we have a deal. There's no manipulation there. There's no grooming there. There's no tricking you into doing something that you otherwise would not have done. But there are some women, and you know that this is true, that $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year man, $1 million man will offer her a duffel bag of cash, fly her to the other side of the country, and convince her to do things that she normally would not do for the quantity of money that they're offering her, and then fly her back. There are some men that'll pick her up, fly her to the other side of the world, and then have her perform acts and behaviors that she otherwise would not perform, and then fly her back. Only come and get this woman when they're interested in her attention. And because she's benefiting from the money, this becomes her behavior pattern. Those are the type of women that then tell the average man, you've got to spend X number of dollars on me in order to get my attention. She's not worth that, but she believes she is, because higher valued men, financially higher valued men, not higher character men, they have low character but high financial value. So again, I'm telling you, that's not in your favor, which means I'm telling the women, yeah, look, make different choices. But that guy brought you up to his level. So the man that's on your level that will worship the ground that you walk on and give you everything that he could to the best of his ability is not valuable to you because you ended up being on Nick Cannon's roster and now you're getting $100,000 a year to carry his baby. So the average man that doesn't make $100,000 a year, he's not on your level, according to you. But you would prefer to have Nick Cannon's baby and get child support from Nick Cannon, and the child never sees their father outside of watching him on TV, versus having the child's dad in the child's life and having him take care of you and the child to the best of his ability. That's the reason why we have these conversations. And again, Vera, we have somebody else that loves a suit. I really appreciate it, bro. I put on a different one every year. Oh, a different one every day throughout the year. I actually started a challenge back in March because the people weren't carrying themselves with self-respect and self-dignity. You see them in their pajamas and in their underwear going to Walmart and go grocery shopping. And I don't do anything if I'm not in a suit. I think 2 times this year, I had a cashmere sweater on. It's the closest thing to dress casual. No long white tees, no throwback jerseys, no jeans and a t-shirt, none of that. None of that. Well, I really appreciate the compliment. I do the best I can to maintain the standard that I preach on, because in order for us to be respected in a higher level, we have to break the stereotype. And in order for us to break the stereotype, we have to make more financially responsible decisions. I actually did a couple of shows earlier this year, and I might have to do some newer ones in 2025 about where to go and what to do to buy more affordable suits, where you too could almost have the same style of attire as the Steve Harvey line without having to spend $5,000 a suit. But as men, we don't think about these things. We don't look at a suit like this when we go to the mall or when we go to the store. When we go to the store, we're looking at Nike, Reebok, Adidas, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, stuff to that effect, because the girls think that it's cool. And then you're spending what, 52,000 on Louis Vuitton, or like that one pastor that spent $7,000 on Louis Vuitton outfits, when you could have bought $7,000 worth of clothes as a pastor for the entire population of your congregation, where people wouldn't need clothes, especially the homeless people. Again, even in that scenario, and that was a dude, financially irresponsible decision making. That guy got what, 2-3 private jets so that he doesn't have to go to the airport for baggage claim, and he doesn't bring the congregation on the private jets. It's just him. 52-bedroom house that doesn't have anybody in the congregation in the house. It's just him, off the church's money. Again, irresponsible financial decision making. So Vera, I'm going to be honest with you. No. One thing I will say is that the majority of women are in denial. And when a man tells a woman that there are fallacies that women have in their character traits, that majority of women that date men perform, those women that are in denial typically put themselves in a defensive position because they are a woman, even if they don't meet that criteria, and try to dispel the man's statement by turning around and saying, well, I'm not that woman. You may not be, but you being the one outlier does not account for the 25 million women that do it. Out of 125 million women, out of 355 million Americans. That's the reason why we talk about stuff like that. And as we start getting really close to the 400,000 Americans, where almost 200,000 of them will be men and almost 200,000 of them will be women, you still only have approximately 75 million single women and approximately 80 million single men. And out of those 80 million single men, approximately 60 million men are going to be below 75,000 a year. And out of the 65 million men or 60 million men that's under 100,000 a year, the 50 million women are not going to select the 80 million men or the 60 million men. They're going to select the top 23 percentile. So for the average man to be desirable by a woman in our transactional economy in 2024, 2025, that average man has to get himself up to the criteria of that $100,000 to $150,000 a year income. Otherwise, even the basement valued woman is not going to want him. A 2 or a 3 is not going to want him, because majority of women are looking for a man that makes over $100,000 a year that'll pay for 100% of her wants, needs, and desires, and take care of the bills. That's why we have that conversation. Not because I feel like I should take shots at women, because I was talking about Vender cards today when you jumped on, Vera. I was talking about investment portfolios when you jumped on. And even though I was talking about Vender cards and investment portfolios, you told me that as a woman, you felt like you didn't belong because you live paycheck to paycheck. So I can tell you that statistically, men save more money than women. Men hold on to more assets than women do. So you living at almost 90% to 99% of your income makes sense, because most women do. But while most men are financially irresponsible as well, they hold on to a lot more of their stuff. A woman with less financial responsibility still would have $10,000 in the account when the man has more responsibilities and have $50,000 a year in the account. It's just facts, it's statistics. Now, once we understand and accept the fact that this is the way it is, and the only thing that we can do is change it by making fiscally responsible decisions and standing on non-negotiable expectations for behavior so that we have better decision-making partners, we then would be able to have a better standard of living and a better arrangement where we're not arguing with our spouse, where we'd then be able to have a better worldview because we would have a partnership where everyone is investing in the same thing. We're all benefiting from the same thing. If you take all of this money, you work at a bank, Vera, you're able to take all of this money, put it into a trust, and use the trust to make money for you, where your house is written off in the trust, your assets are written off in the trust, your stock portfolios are written off in the trust, all of your investment capital is written off in the trust. That's how you're able to make money for you, Vera. But just saying, I can't do it because I'm a woman, or saying that I can't do it because, I don't make enough money. No, you spend too much money. It has nothing to do with you being a woman. You spend too much money. Whether you got a gym membership that you don't use, hot Pilates, hot yoga class that you don't use, you're spending too much money. Because just like a trust, just like a business that operates at 30 to 40% of the income received, every human being in America should be living off of 40% or less of their income. And if you're not, you're spending too much money. So disconnect some of the services that you don't need. Disconnect some of the services that you believe that you need that you don't use very often. Stop wasting money on things that are not beneficial to you. Weigh the cost versus the profit of taking an Uber versus owning your own car. If you take that many trips per month that owning your car is going to save you money than getting an Uber, then go rent or buy you a car. If the monthly payments on a car is going to be equal to the cost of an Uber and you don't need the car that often, you rent the car when you need one and you don't rent the car when you don't need one. Making fiscally responsible moves doesn't mean that you don't have to buy the Prada gown with the matching Prada purse with the matching Prada shoes. Making responsible decisions is a difference between getting name brand Hunt's ketchup at Walmart and getting a great value. That's how deep it gets. The difference between spending $500 a month on groceries versus $250 a month on groceries. Because you like name brand food. Something as simple as that, Vera, leads the average American to not make enough money to cover their bottom line because you're overspending. Snacks cost more than real food, right? Snacks are less fulfilling. There are some Americans that spend more money on snacks than they spend on healthy foods. Then they have weight problems. Then those weight problems lead to them having to get extra health insurance, which leads them to have higher premiums on the health insurance, which leads them to spend more money on gas to get to the doctor, which leads them to spend more money on medication, or leads them to spend more money on a higher insurance policy that covers the medication. Something as simple as not eating unhealthy foods on a regular basis. You could save money on the food. Then you could save money on the trips to the doctor. Then you can save money on the insurance because you don't need all of that extra medication. I can tell you right now, health insurance or no, I've gone to the doctor once in the last 5 years outside of a personal injury. So how much money am I paying on deductibles? I don't not go because I can't afford it. I don't go because I don't need to. But the fact is that if I had poor health because I'm not making wise choices with taking good care of my body, I would be spending more money on my medical treatment, which you're going to say, well, medical expenses, that's a necessity. But damaging your health that causes you to have unnecessary medical expenses is not fiscally responsible. So you might not shop, but if you drink alcohol, you might not drink alcohol. But if you smoke, you might not smoke. But if you smoke weed, you might not smoke weed. But if you buy candy, lots of candy, snacks, sweets, these are all ways that you're just wasting money on things that you technically don't need. If you leave the lights on in all the rooms in the house and you're not in any of those rooms, that's fiscally irresponsible. It boiled down. You said you're a penny pincher, Vera. We can go all the way down to pinch pennies. If you pay somebody to cut your grass instead of getting out there and cutting your own grass, you're wasting money. The only time that you're paying somebody else to cut your grass is when you're making more money by them cutting your grass than what you're paying them to cut your grass. And that doesn't mean that you have a better paying job that can afford to cut the grass. That means that you have a business opportunity that will put more money in your pocket right now while the grass needs to be cut than what it costs to pay somebody to cut the grass for you. So instead of being in two places at one time, you're going to pay somebody to take your place and cut the grass while you go make extra money. That's what I'm talking about. The old saying that you know you're rich when it costs you more money to bend over and pick up $100 bill off the ground than what it does to keep walking. The effort it takes to do that costs more to you than the ability to not do it. And the fact that you're more successful, you're more financially successful because you didn't do it than what you did when you did do it. That goes to show how valuable your time is. So, Vera, when we're talking about the difference between somebody who will try to take a $100 bill out of a man's hand because he showed it to her versus the type of person who can look at that $100 bill and be like, it's just paper. That's the difference between a poor-minded person that needs that $100 versus a high-valued or financially stable person that doesn't need that $100. The difference between broke-minded people who brag about the money they have by having bricks of $100 bills or bricks of $1 bills with a $100 bill on top to make it look like they got wads of cash and they pressing it up against their face versus an individual that never puts his money up on social media. That's what we talk about. The irresponsible mistakes versus the fiscally responsible mistakes. If we as men on this podcast make more positive decisions where we're not making irresponsible mistakes, you got a Glock with a Glock switch, you shouldn't show everybody that you got a Glock with a Glock switch. I don't think anybody who watches this podcast can tell you if I got a pistol and if I do, what kind it is. If I got a shotgun or an assault rifle. Because you didn't get that to be like, look, I got a gun. You got it to protect yourself, your family, and the people and things that you value. But those people who show it off for the sake of showing it off so that they can get views, irresponsible decision making. The people who waste money on stuff like that so that they can show it off when they're not even really getting it for self-defense. Irresponsible decision making. Now, I still believe that everybody should have two in case one of them malfunctions. Fact is that you're only getting it for show. If you're only getting it for entertainment, you don't need one. You should have one and learn how to use it. But I mean, if you're going to not use it wisely, it's better that you don't have it. So that's all the stuff that I got for you for today. I really appreciate you guys coming to the show. Make sure that you like and subscribe and know that we are live 7 days a week, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, 5 Pacific. We sometimes start a little bit later, but we still give you guys a full hour, if not more. Today, we managed to give you 2 hours, 13 minutes. We're good at maintaining that hour minimum standard most of the time, because there have been a day or two where we have gone 45 minutes and we had to stop. And remember the other day that I was under the weather, hadn't gotten any sleep, and I gave you a 20-minute, but I came back and did a full hour and a half after that. You just got to know that we're here every day of the week, and we're always talking about something different: business, finance, investments, relationships, social interactions, inequalities, and how to be a better man and how to make your decisions make you more successful. Because as men, if we make better decisions, then we'll end up in happier relationships. As men, if we make better decisions, we'll end up with more financially successful engagements, which will lead us with more wealth opportunities. And that's what we're doing here on This and That, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you, ladies. And as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So ladies, make it make sense. I'm your host, Xander, with This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And y'all have a good night.